Long time no see, and I am so excited to be on here with you guys. How's it going? Welcome, one and all, to the celebration of the Vow That Twisted Fate's fourth birthday, and I cannot believe it has already been 4 years since this book came out. Oh, I have so many feels today. So I thought nothing would be better to celebrate the Vow That Twisted Fate than reading some deleted scenes that did not make it into the first edition. A few of these scenes made it into the revised collector's edition, but some of them you guys have been asking me for a very long time. So for those who are new, my name is Katherine. I'm a USA Today best-selling fantasy author, and The Vow That Twisted Fate is my debut epic fantasy novel. It came out on July 9th, 2021, and it is a standalone novel. It has this warm place in my heart. I'm so excited just to get to talk to you guys about it, and just sort of jump back into the head that I had at that time. It is amazing how much your writing grows over the years, and reading these deleted scenes gave me both this little bit of a cringy, oh, I can't believe that that was something I wrote at that time, but also it was like this version of me that went after something with raw passion, right? Because a lot of these scenes are darlings. And in the writing world, a darling is a scene that doesn't really add anything to the plot, but it is something the writer cared a lot about and put a lot of thought into. So, yes, thus we're sharing it today. Hey, Luna. Good to see you on. Welcome, welcome. You guys feel free to shout out whatever you would like to shout out. I do have some other throwback things that we're going to be pulling up a little bit today as well. Going back through to find these deleted scenes, pulled up so many cool things in my folders. And I was like, I have got to share this on the birthday live. So I think it'd be fitting to start out by sharing the original cover, because you guys know that I had a cover rebrand if you have been following me. So thank you to Dale for helping me with that cover rebrand. But my original cover is this one here. This is the Vow That Twisted Fate's first edition cover. It was designed by Jesh on Fiverr, who I highly recommend. They do great work. They did all of the covers for my Lord's Gambit series as well. But the idea behind the original cover for Vow was having the two different versions of the main character on the cover. So I know if you're going to go read Vow for the first time, I don't want to spoil one of the biggest parts of the book. But on one side, we have our villain, the sorceress Maedra, and then on the other side, we have Arlena, who is our primary protagonist. And in the book, you learn pretty early on that all evil has been banished from Arlena's world by an ancestor named Valera hundreds of years before. So you have one dimension where all the good things are and one dimension where all the evil things are. And one of the questions that I wanted to leave readers with as I was writing this book was who gets to decide what is good and what is evil, and sort of come to this place where we accept the fact that unless we can embrace that there's good and evil in all of us, we can never change or grow. So these sides sort of balance each other out. In the background, we have the pentagram. There was a pentagram that opens in the sky in Arlena's world as the sorceress Maedra is trying to get back to the world that she feels she deserves to rule. And then we have her army, obviously the sorceress's army on one side, and then Arlena's on the other. So I love this cover. I still do. The reason I decided to do the rebrand on the cover was ultimately because we were getting too many reviews about it coming across like YA in the cover and not being YA when you read it. And it's not really a YA piece. Upper YA might be fine with it. It's really aimed more toward new adult and adult audiences. There's a splash of romance on the side. It doesn't get super steamy or spicy, but it does have some torture scenes in it, and it goes a little dark in certain areas. So those things coming into play never really made me want somebody to show this to their 12-year-old unless they vetted it and they felt like, that was a good fit. So that is one of the first things that I wanted to share. The next thing that I want to share with you guys is the original book trailer, because it's been a long time since this came up. So I'm going to try to share this with you. I'm going to cross my fingers that I can get this to load. And after the trailer, we're going to pull up the deleted scenes. If you would like to read The Vow That Twisted Fate, I have reopened the first edition on Amazon. That is the only place you can buy the first edition. The link is in the description box. And then the current edition, that's that more extended author's edition cut, is going to be available with the new cover, and that is linked in the description box as well. So let's see. I think I've got this trailer. Nobody told me when I started writing that you also had to be tech savvy. I've got volume, but I've got no picture. Hold on. Here we go. All right, let me know if you see it. I'm going to try to make the screen bigger, and hopefully you can actually hear it now that I've got it shared on the screen. So, yes, we can see it. Perfect. All right, I'm going to try to play. Hopefully you guys can hear it as I play it. So yeah, that's the original trailer. Oh, it feels weird watching it after all these years. So I got that trailer in 2020, and the book came out in 2021, and I have all the feels watching it. I'm not even gonna lie. It makes me want to do a full reread of my own book. Oh my goodness. So many feels. And if you've been watching and reading my books for a while and you liked the trailer, let me know what it was that you really liked about it. The Vow That Twisted Fate originally opened in English, and then it went on to expand a little bit into other languages like Spanish, and it has an audiobook that was narrated by the very, very talented Talon David. So, yes, singer, songwriter, voice actress, very, very talented. All right, so we're going to get into our deleted scenes a little bit here. I'm going to decide which one we're going for first. The first one I think we're going to do is the infamous pickling scene. So if you have followed me the last few years since this came out, and you have been in any of the editing classes or seminars that I have taught about developmental editing and cutting out darlings, you may have heard me bring up the pickling scene. The pickling scene is a 5 to 6 page, depending on your word count, your page size screen. Yeah, been a long time. It was a very, very long scene. I don't know why so many people want to hear this scene, and I'm going to just be completely candid. This is not my best work. This is going to be the unedited first draft, but you get to see why it got cut out. And if you're a writer and you're really attached to something you put a lot of time into, maybe this will give you the freedom to go, oh, hey, yeah, I should cut out the things that are dragging this pace down, and I save them for a day when my readers want that pickling scene so bad, right? But thank you for your patience. I'm going to go ahead and pull this up so that you can read alongside me. And of course, the book is already out, so you can read the actual version it ended up being. But here is the screen. I'm going to see if I can zoom in just a little bit, and then we're going to read it out loud together. All right, so hopefully this makes it easy to read. I'm going to make my face smaller so that it takes up the full screen. And let's dive in. The morning dawns bright and clear with one exception. The air is even more chilled than the day before. I can feel it from the bed before I even lower the blankets. Elsie is still asleep when I swing my feet over the edge of the bed and stretch. My riding clothes are gone. Talon must have indeed taken them with him when he left last night. I pull a thick crimson dress from the rack and slide into it and zip on a warm pair of cotton-lined ankle boots that had been gifted to me by the Elvenkin clothesmiths on their last visit. I take a seat before the vanity and grab a silver comb to brush out my tangled long blonde hair before going downstairs. It takes a while to do since my hair has been left to dry while I was sleeping, but by the time I'm finished, it only looks a little frazzled as opposed to a tangled, matted mess. Skipping all over the place, sorry. The sound of morning chatter is loud enough to be heard, even from within my room. I make my way out the door to the stairs, where my people are breaking into cheers and clapping at my arrival. I wave to them and give them all a large smile, but when I look for Talon, I can't find his face in the crowd. The chefs bring me heaping plates of berry sweet cakes for breakfast, baked, fluffy, sweet confections with a swirling sweet jam scrolled into them. I down 4 of them, while the people around me joke about my ferocious appetite being related to my previous day's adventures. My father even laughs at me when I ask for a 5th. Easy there, lass, he chides me with a smile. There'll be more, you know. No need to breathe them in. I smack at him playfully and dig into my 5th plate. 3 more plates later, and my stomach is finally protesting, so I lean back in my seat with a contented sigh. Milady, the air is chilled enough to bring an early frost, Gerald informs me privately after I've made my good morning rounds to the people. I recommend calling the farmers into a brief session to discuss the crops. Of course, I agree. Please gather them outside of the south gate for me. Gerald bows and goes to find the farmers. I find my father and ask, Have you seen Talon this morning? He went out riding before dawn, father replies. Said he had to make a run to the Dwarvenkins' keep on an errand. Ah, thank you. I make my way out to the courtyard by the south gate while pondering these words. I don't remember Talon's routes including any errands at the Dwarvenkins' keep before. Something about the high-born Elvenkin prince making a trek to the mountain mining town fills me with unease. And I'm going to pause here and say, no, this was not edited in any way because it got cut in the very, very first draft. So please bear with the typos. When I reach the stairs outside the farmers, their wives and their children are all gathered, about 40 people in total. They greet me with clapping and laughter, and I wave again for them. Once the greetings quiet down, I open the discussion. You have lived in this land, worked this land, and harvested from this land for hundreds of years, I address them. Your parents owned it before you, and your grandparents before them. Even since before the Great War, when your ancestors took possession of this land and in Queen Valera's name, this has been your crowning jewel. The pride on the people's faces is a wonder to me. Truly, our people to this day have taken great pride in protecting their lineage of the lineage their forefathers passed down, just as I strive to honor my own lineage. The weather has been strange, I continue, though I'm sure you know that better than any. What can be done to support you in this time? An older man with salt and pepper hair and matching beard steps up to the front of the crowd with a hand raised. I motion to him and take a step back so that the others know someone within the crowd has moved into the speaking role. Milady, he addresses me with a bow, would we be correct in assuming that your visit to the woods yesterday didn't turn up anything about the strange weather? I nod my confirmation. I have worked this land many years, as you've said, he says. I have never seen the frost come so early. I recommend harvesting our crops now, an emergency harvest. Several people in the group nod and mumble their agreements with this suggestion. How many people would you need? I ask them. If we can have the elders help prepare the crops for drying and canning, one of the other men calls out from somewhere in the back. Maybe an extra 20 people could help us clear the fields. I clap my hands once as I say, done. I'll have them come meet you in the field then. The crowd disperses into their homes to find their tools, and I go back into the castle. Everyone, if I could have a moment of your time, I shout to get everyone's attention. Some people are eating a late breakfast, while others are clearing dishes or setting out more food. They pause in their work to give me their attention. We are bringing in the crops in preparation for an early frost, I say. We need 20 volunteers to go help our farmers with the harvesting. We also ask that the elders help with the drying and canning preparations. I want to do something too, the little girl who'd given me the apple calls out. I can't help but smile as I add, of course, the younglings can help the elders. Everyone scrambles to get started. The chefs bring baskets out to the people who are going to help bring in the harvest. They set canning jars out on the cleared dining tables and spools of thick cotton yarn. They also start working with the women who remain on grinding salts and sweet reed into powder in large pestle bowls. The older women and men pair themselves off with the younglings. Some have two instead of one, and begin their instruction by explaining how the canning and drying processes work. I help lay out supplies. Elsie has gone out to help in the field, and Father is pouring salt into the pestle bowls from the large 75-pound sack that the chefs can't lift on their own. Even Gerald has found himself a shadow in the girl who'd called out earlier and was preparing a drying station for himself. No one sits idle. Before we've even fully prepped, the harvesters start sending in the farmers' children carrying loaded baskets. The different crop types are each assigned a table, and the fruits or vegetables are tumbled out into the center so that the children can take the baskets back out to the fields with them. The head chef takes charge of the drying and canning operation by assigned people to a table. I help some of the younger women run salt to the drying stations and sweet reed powder to the canning stations. Lesser chefs have set up a spick in the main fireplace with a sturdy metal hook in the middle. The women whisper and blush and shoot embarrassed glances at my father as he carries one-handed the giant cast-iron kettle from the kitchen and hangs it on the hook as if it weighs nothing. The kettle is big enough for me to sit in if I pull my knees up to my chest. I join the women to help carry buckets of water from the large kitchen sink for the kettle. We form a line of 15 people long and pass the buckets back and forth, being careful not to slosh too much out onto the floor. It takes us quite a while to fill it completely. By the time we're done, the elders have finished a good bit of their canning, and the children from outside are bringing in a second load. The water assembly line breaks up to clear the tables of finished cans. My father and some of the other strong men seal the lids on the canning jars as tightly as they can. The women and I then run those jars to the kettle and lower them using a long steel ladle into the bottom of the kettle. It's a delicate and exacting process, but the running around and concentration makes the time fly by. At some point in the day, Talon returns home. When he enters, I pause at my work to watch him, but he either doesn't see me or doesn't act like he sees me. He goes straight to the stairs and takes them two at a time to the top. I look around at all the hard-working people. The desire to chase upstairs after him, to thank him for the night before, to ask what he'd been doing at the Dwarvenkin's Keep, all fill my heart. However, I know I could never leave my people to work when I would not. I return to the work at hand. We can, salt, string up, and boil the precious foodstuffs that will have to last through the frost. Some of the taller men string the fruits and vegetables around the kitchen walls like garlands so that they can dry against the hot stone and already be available for cooking through the snowy season. Because the houses are so small, everyone uses the castle kitchen for their meals. Women rotate cooking different cuisines to send home each day. Having the dried food there and waiting saves everyone time each day. It is far past the typical noontime meal before we get finished, and everyone is dragging by the end. The last few baskets of fruits and vegetables are carried straight to the kitchen to use in the next few days' meals. Some of the younger children snooze on their mats with their favorite rag dolls and rag dogs and cats. My elite, Talon greets me for the first time today. Talon, thank you for last night, I greet him with a warm smile. It takes all my willpower to force my questions down. There are too many people around us to address them here. Sir Gerald and I would like to meet with you upstairs if you have a moment, Talon says. Shall I bring your lunch up for you so that you can eat while we talk? Yes, please, I nod. Should I grab Father or Elsie? That won't be necessary. Talon dismisses me with a wave of his hand and walks away toward the line of people waiting to be served a sandwich from the chefs. I take him at his word and go upstairs to the only room suitable for a meeting of any kind, the study and the main entryway of the royal chambers. I'm greeted by the smell of old books and the musty scent of oil. On a small workbench pushed against the right wall, my father's oily pastimes sit in pieces. Machines he scavenged for in his younger years, while my mother was still alive. The two of them went to great lengths to find anything old that used to work with springs and wires and gears. They'd even found some ancient tools and oil that the Dwarvenkin mechanics say make these machines work. Father's been working diligently on restoring one, at least one of them, ever since. So I'm actually going to pause here because at this point, the actual revised edited version of the book is available to read in the published version, and it will be a much, much smoother, actually polished, edited, typo-free version for you guys. So that is the probably most asked for deleted scene. And so now that I've read it, hopefully people understand why I cut it. Epic fantasy is known for its fantastic world building, right? And the immersion and being there in the culture and being there with the characters. But when we take so much time away from the plot to sort of follow a squirrel off into this little niche like this, it just detracts from the overall experience of the plot instead of adding to it. So the version that actually ended up in the live book was just a couple paragraphs, really less than a page, I believe, summed up about why they were going to be gathering these things early, showing them get to work, and summarizing the work process and that tension between Talon coming home from the Dwarvenkin's Keep and Arla wanting to address what happened with him the night before, with him finding a dagger in her boot as he was putting her unconscious body into a bathtub. And if you haven't read the book, that's all you're going to get from me on that scene. You are going to have to go read it. That's in chapter 2. So that is the much, much asked for pickling scene. And we got a couple other things we're going to share today. So back when I knew I wanted to publish the Vow That Twisted Fate, one of the things that I wanted was character art. And so I commissioned an illustrator to draw some character art for the book. And one of the ones that received the most love from you guys was this one here. On the left-hand side, we have Sayre. Sayre is not in the book very long, but you guys really, really fell in love with him. And I'm so honored and I'm so glad that you felt the amount of emotion that you did toward him. Sayre is the Moonkeeper Prince, which is the equivalent of sort of a dark elf type character in this world. It's like vampire meets dark elf, maybe with some shifter stuff thrown in, but I'm leaving that for the book for you to decide. He is the main right-hand man and love interest of Maedra the Sorceress in the book. He does not get much page time in the book for tragic reasons you'll find out as you read. On the other side of this, we have Elven King Thalen. Elven King Thalen is Sayre's brother-in-law. Sayre is the brother of the wife of the Elven King in the book. And Thalen is sort of the mentor character that steps up for Arla in the book. But it's up to you to decide whether you think he's a villain or an antagonist or a distraction character or a good guy who's misunderstood, right? So these two characters have been around since Valera, who is Arlena's ancestor, and they have seen the world the way it was before it was split, and now they see what Maedra is coming back to, and that paints their perception of the world a little differently. So just wanted to go back and give a shout out to these characters who I love so much, and thank you again for your support with the art and everything. If you're interested in making the sandwich from that scene we were just talking about, I did also make, during the launch of the Vow That Twisted Fate, another throwback goodie for people on today, a recipe card showing Queen Arlena's favorite sandwich. And let me see if I can zoom in, and then we'll scroll down a little bit here. And in Arlena's world, everybody is vegetarian. They do not eat meat. So it is going to have a lot of vegetables on it and nice, savory, crispy sandwich, but from that time. And these were note cards that I believe I gave out to readers or ARC readers early on. So you're getting sort of this special little sneak peek here. that you won't find anywhere else. So let's get into another deleted scene here. I'm going to go ahead and try to get this pulled up so that you can see it. This is it here. Let me go ahead and pull up the screen for you guys. Thanks for bearing with me. It's been so long since I've done a stream like this. All right. Hopefully this does the trick. And instead of a black box, you'll see the actual page. All right. Everybody can see it, I hope. So this is a deleted scene called Elsie's War. It was originally written to take place between what is currently the end of chapter 18 in the book in this version, which is where Arlena leaves. She is taken to another dimension against her will by her ancestor's ghost. And when she's there, time flows differently for her than it does for Elsie and the other people who are left behind at home. So this is what happens in Elsie's purview while Arlena is in the dark dimension for the very first time in the book. All right. Elven King Thalen's soul-piercing glare slices my soul to the core, despite my attempt to avoid meeting his gaze. Again, he orders. The wooden staff of Talon's Nagita strikes me across the ribs, sending me flying into the mud. I hiss out my breath instead of loosing a scream I know I can't let escape. Thalen will only be harsher if I scream. My eyes sting with unshod tears as the rough, unwrapped wooden hilt of my training sword burns the raw blisters in my palm. At least I didn't drop the sword this time. Talon's footsteps are normally too light to hear, but the squelch of the mud alerts me of his rapid approach. Gritting my teeth against the pain of bruises and blisters, I force myself mindlessly up and around to block Talon's next blow. His eyebrows shoot up, and his mouth actually drops open for a fraction of a second as I scream, forcing his weapon away. Being the most skilled warrior in our world, Elven Prince Talon is rarely caught off guard, so I lunge forward, taking advantage of the opening to tackle him around the waist. Thud. Oof! The sound escapes me, but it's muffled in his tunic. Despite his thin and feminine appearance, striking him leaves me feeling as though I tackled a pillar of stone. He remains soundly on his feet, grinning down at me in amusement. Wait, Talon is grinning? My face warms as I realize just how close I am to him, how his arms drape stiffly around my waist in what is almost a hug. He sets me upright and steps back into attention as Elven Queen Reyes strides onto the training grounds, carefully lifting the hem of her ankle-length dress out of the mud. Thalen crosses to his wife and offers her his arm, which she takes only after giving him a gentle peck on the cheek. Elsie, darling, Rhea's melodic voice carries over the yard to me. That's enough training for today. Come clean up for the court, would you? So that I can look pretty while you order my people around, I think bitterly. Forcing a smile, I curtsy and wait for her to return to the castle with Thalen before turning my attention to my mud-covered clothes and hair. Running my fingers through the matted scarlet curls, I contemplate cutting it all off for the 100th time since I started training 3 months ago. You don't want to cut it, my princess, Talon admonishes with a clever smile. He sure has been smiling at me a lot lately. The thought warms me to my core, but I cannot dare to hope that my longtime friend and crush may even consider me in return. I'm just Arla's little sister, and they've always been close. Here, let me have that. Taking the sword from my now bleeding hands, Talon takes me in his arms despite the mud all over me. His long legs have us at the stables in minutes, where he sends Cliffin off to fetch the buckets of water we'll need to clean up. On non-rainy days, I usually change and wash up in my room in the castle, but on muddy, rainy days like today, I prefer not to make extra work for the women who volunteer to clean our castle floors. Talon tenderly touches my mud-soaked locks, and a strange expression, almost one of sadness, flashes over his beautiful features. I'm sorry, my princess, he whispers, his fingers moving to trail my cheek. How my elite would mourn to know what this war is making of you. My hand covers his, and my heart leaps when he doesn't pull away. Talon. Clifton bursts in with the water, and Talon's hand flies down to his side in less than a second. Here, princess, I was able to get hot water from the lesser chefs today. Thank you, Clifton. I smile at him, and he hurries away. Talon's stoic expression is returned, and he bows, low, not meeting my eyes. My princess, I should be going in. Thank you, Talon. He nods and heads to the door, pausing to look back over his shoulder. Remember, my princess, he says before he goes, your war will not last forever. With that, my prince is gone. Sighing, I pour some hot water into a second bucket and dip my hair in, working hard to get it clean. My ribbons hang nearby, ribbons for pigtails I've always worn. Pigtails for a princess who didn't know what the real world is like, what war is, what death is. I shudder, looking out the door at the mounds still bare of grass in the graveyard behind the stables, tombs of young soldiers who died unprepared when the shade attacked Arla. Innocence drips from my once rose-colored eyes, trailing down my cheeks as steadily as the warming water drips from my hair. Sucking in a sharp breath, I sink down on a stool and begin to braid my hair into rows. There's no more room for pigtails. No more room for play. This is war. So I have to say that is probably one of my favorite deleted scenes and was one of the most painful to cut. I did not write this book as a multi-POV book, which is something that I typically do for other series. But because this was literally the only one that didn't have that POV in it, I just couldn't, in good conscience, leave it there. And I felt like it was also sort of spoilery for what was going to happen with Talon not falling for Arla, right? Because Talon and Arla and Maverick were sort of supposed to come across like a love triangle. And when I initially wrote the very first draft, I was trying to pair Talon with Arla, and it just wasn't working. When she came back from being in the other dimension, I could not get their interactions to feel believable and their romance to feel believable. So I ended up letting it go where it wanted to go on its own. And that ended up taking the piece to a point where I realized Maverick was actually the person who was there for Arla. And it has always been Elsie as Talon's princess. So that is sort of spoilery, I know, but that's where this is going to be. All right, so those are a couple of my favorite deleted scenes. There's a few more scenes that I added in and expanded on in that expanded version of the book that you can order on Amazon. So that's the one with the newer cover, not the split-faced cover. But thank you for being here. Thank you for celebrating with me. Thank you for giving me a chance to grow as an author since The Vow That Twisted Fate first came out in 2021. I am so honored to still be here chatting with you guys, and I hope you've enjoyed today's deleted scenes. So take care, everybody. Bye. Have a good day.